contradiction, this conflict that couldn't be resolved. They can't both be right, it would seem. Both seem to have sound arguments. We just can't get past it. So, with regard to the possibility of coming to know anything, maybe we can't. What the sophists did was they just shrugged and said, okay, let's make money instead. Let's gain power instead. And through the use of persuasive argumentation, they got people to agree with them. Their positions, which gave them business opportunities. Their theories of justice, which gave them political power. Their moral authority, which gave them, well, moral power. Right? So they shaped society, even though they were claiming to know nothing all that much. Right? They could make no secure claim to knowledge. Well, what Socrates wanted to claim, very distinct from this, is that, well, even if we cannot know the truth, here is the big T truth, and there's a big question mark over it. Right? Even if we can't know the truth, we can kind of know that there is a truth. Right? Even if we can not say exactly what justice is, we don't know what it is. It's something. And we have to live our lives with regard to it. Right? So, we know in some circumstances in our lives that we are not telling the truth. We know in certain circumstances in our lives that we are doing something incorrect. When I lie to somebody, am I doing something right? I might not know what moral truth is with a big T, but I know that when I issue a falsehood, that's wrong. Right? Now, that said, think of how this would politically play itself out. Well, think of it this way. I want to make a claim to knowledge. Let's use an ancient Greek example. Women are not fully rational and therefore not fully human. I want to claim that that's a bit of knowledge. I want to base some actions on this. I want to lay out a political situation in which women are deprived the right to vote. Can I make such a claim to knowledge? Does it hold up to scrutiny? No. So it's false. Well, I don't know what a genuine humanity involves. Right? To claim that I know that women don't fit that bill, that's incorrect. So, Socrates' position here, even if we can't know the big T truth, we can know lots of small t truths. We can hold ourselves to a lot of moral standards even still. So Socrates' moral position is something that, it involves critical reasoning. Right? And it revolves around this idea of being authentic, or just honest. Right? Should you, if you don't know anything, if your beliefs cannot stand up to this rational scrutiny that he's demanding of them, and therefore become knowledge, should you make a claim to knowledge? Should you claim to know anything that you don't know? Of course not. Because that's not truth, it's a lie. Right? Should you act like you know anything that you don't know? Of course not. Right? And when somebody else makes a claim to knowledge, should you let them get away with that claim to knowledge if they can't back it up? No. And if somebody's acting like they know something, let's use a more contemporary example. Right? Well, even more contemporary. Even the women thing didn't reverse until kind of very recently in terms of human history. Let's use slavery. Right? Slaves aren't fully human and therefore shouldn't be granted rights as human beings in a civil society. Right? That can't stand up. Right? And if you see people making claims like that, should you let them get away with it? No. No, you shouldn't. So you should be critical of yourself and others. You should hold people to a sort of a state of honesty. So, that's more or less a positive moral position that comes out of the complete absence of a knowledge of this big T truth. So, the Socratic dicta. Right? These three propositions sum up Socrates' moral position. And as we're about to see, they've got sort of an optimistic theory of human moral dispositions. First off, knowledge is virtue. Knowledge is virtue. Anything you can know can only help you. It can't hurt you. You're better knowing than not knowing in all cases. Those who know the good do the good. Right? So if you think of it this way, if you know something is going to be good for you, and that's a really deep knowledge within you, you're automatically going to do it. Right? And then evil arises as an involuntary error due to ignorance. The only reason somebody does something nasty, bitter, jealous, spiteful, rude, evil, is because they don't know any better. They haven't thought it through. So right at the underpinning of this position here, and Socrates uses these Socratic dicta as part of his defense, right? The underpinning of these is a very optimistic and positive theory of human moral dispositions. He thinks we're all basically good creatures. Right? Anybody who knows what the right thing to do is, just does that right thing. Right? The only reason anybody does anything that's nasty, foolish, bitter, wrong-headed, that sort of thing, it's just because they don't know any better. Right? So, that's more or less the very optimistic theory of human moral dispositions that we'll see again when we turn to Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics. Right? So the ancient Greeks were very optimistic with regard to the moral dispositions of humans. Now, Socrates' moral position, right, it's also a political position involving this sort of critical, rational disposition to that which we're given. And we see it come to the fore in his gadfly argument. Right? Now, Socrates was a pain in the butt, and everybody knew he was a pain in the butt. He knew he was a pain in the butt. He knew that people didn't really like him. So, why would he keep doing it? He knows that the justice system in Athens is based on, this sort of voting thing, and they vote people into exile all the bloody time, right? In fact, once a year, everybody gets a little clay tile. And on that clay tile, they would put a name. Let's put my name on this clay tile. And these clay tiles would all go into a jar. And if more tiles with my name on it show up than any of the other clay tiles with other people's names on it, then I'm voted off the island. I go into exile. I have to leave the city. So, what we're looking at is an exile-happy sort of closed system in which you could just kick people out if you didn't like them. Right? Once a year you've got that opportunity to vote somebody into exile. It happened with great generals that fell into disfavor as well. So, what we find is a society, a very democratic society in which everybody gets a vote. Right? A fairly free society in which everybody has an active sort of part in what the laws are, how they look, that sort of thing. But what Socrates noticed is that while everybody has a vote, justice is not necessarily served by the mere act of voting. Right? We ought be persuaded by reasons instead. So, free and open debate about even these subjects that are unpopular becomes very important in a democratic society. If we think about our own society, what are the three things that you're not supposed to talk about in polite conversation? Religion, money,